Welcome to the broadcast, my dear old fruits. Have you seen what she's been up to? Gallivanting around Montecito. Here she goes. Crisp air, blue skies, and the sweetest moments. Shut up! The Sussexes thought that they were such master players, didn't they? Don't you think? They thought they were so intelligent and so super clever that the king and the kingdom would be calling back to them by now, begging for their return on bended knee. They would give the Macbeths a run for their money, don't you think? You can just imagine her, can't you? H-O-H. Did you see how Australia are in love with us? They prefer us over William and Catherine. We are the star turn. We are the conquest. And that old woman that you call Granny, I can't remember her name. Lilibet might have to use that one day. She's yesterday's pizza, Harry. Yesterday's pizza, old news, with mold growing on it. They need something new. We are the great disruptors, Harry. Never forget that. We're here to show them how it's done. It's our empire for the taking, Harry. Yes. I'm sorry, my dear, but it didn't really go to plan, did it? For you or for your husband? No, I'm afraid not. They're not crawling back to you. So, of course, the Sussexes, what do? They dispatch their worker bees, their teams, their buglers from Montecito, their trumpeters, the likes of Mains and Maguire, scoundrels of all different kinds and different quarters, making their oily plans and their shady deals in shady corners behind the scenes. So Harry's been giving up all this talk about reconciliation that we keep hearing about, very indiscreetly, actually, admitting the fact that the king won't talk to him and won't take his calls, and he has to make do with tiny little 20-minute affairs when he's in the kingdom, trying to oil his way back in. And then, of course, the news comes along that he apparently is hedging towards a British education for his issue. Well, the king is going to be minded to recall the words of the late Queen and her thoughts, which is, there is no half in and no half out, especially where those two are concerned, unless you're talking about them doing the horizontal hula and the hokey cokey. Then half in, half out might be exactly what it's all about, my dear, but when it comes to royalty, no. You are all about the brand, aren't you? You're supposed to be branding experts, and you hire all these great chiefs. And experts in about branding do not understand the power of the royal brand that the late Liz accomplished so effectively with her iconic look, from the iconic hairdo that we all know and love, from the profile on stamps and coins and souvenirs and the like, the bright colours she wore. Branding is a literal hot flame branded into the consciousness, and it must not be disrupted, as you put it, and it must not be diluted. And the message is quite clear, and that is that your brother is to be king. Big Willie V. No Henry IX on the way, my dear. I'm sorry, you might have thought that you were going to be following on as some sort of sequel to your very famous relative, King Henry VIII, but it is not to be. I'm so sorry. He could eat you for dinner, couldn't he? And I hate to think what he'd do with your wife. Actually, it's rather delicious to ponder over that, considering what he did to some of the others, but we won't go there. Harry, in his predicament at this present time, is like a dog without a tail, and he keeps on wagging. There's nothing there. Nothing there. So don't start wagging anything else around Mr. Todger, because we really don't want that sort of vision, as much as you keep trying to sprinkle your territory, what you think is your territory, but in fact it's your brother's kingdom to inherit, and at this present time it's your father's, so you can quit all of that at once. Perhaps you could go commiserate with Sarah York. You might make a good ginger twosome, you two. Perhaps you could work together on a live-action remake of her book, Budgie the Helicopter, Harry. With you in the starring role, I think you'd fit right in there. I think you'd be perfect casting. And I've no doubt you've smuggled a few budgies in your time. And can you believe, my dears, that Harry had the temerity recently to tell us, "I don't believe I aired my dirty laundry in public. No, it was a difficult message, but I did it in the best way possible." Really? That was the best way possible of delivering your message, Harry? Perhaps if you were a Kardashian, it might be a very reasonable way to deliver the message in tawdry cabaret styling, or the Osbornes, but even they've got more familial loyalty, haven't they? Harry claims, "My conscience is clear." Now, my fruits, you can tell me, is that just sheer stupidity, or delusion and fantasism, or plain old stubbornness from this pusillanimous prince? The king has no desire, Harry, to indulge your marauding around the kingdom and the globe, as if you are on royal train and royal tour. No, make peace with your fate as a chief impact officer, oh, you're so important, and your wife as a key executive and Avon lady. And there is no shame in either of those things, by the way, but stop cosplaying the heir apparent, because we already have one, and his name's Willie. And Meghan, darling, just a little word in your shell-like. You are not Diana, and you are not Catherine, you're not even a Camilla, and you're absolutely not the late Queen Elizabeth. No. The only type of queen you are is a drama queen and a stunt queen. But as for consort, regnant, dowager, or drag, no, I'm afraid you are not, my dear. So you've got to make peace with that. And Harry, your marauding around and your todgering is an embarrassment to William and Catherine, moreover. And have you noticed, they get more attention than you guys for simply walking into a room and smiling. They get more adulation, more attention, more praise, and more respect from simply being themselves, rather than all of this mischief that you get up to, you yappy pair. You seem to rely on devices and schemes, strategies, Mains and Maguire, plots, snatches and mischief, and mayhem and jiggery-pokery all the time, and it's worn thin, and it's quite threadbare, darling. Oh God, where's my tiara gone? This is what happens when I get exercised, my dear, because of these two. The diadem slips. Oh, it's gone again. Right, it's coming off. It's also been reported that Meghan has been offered a slot on the radio as a DJ. How fabulous. How fabulous. See, you've got alternative options, haven't you, my dear? You can be a radio DJ on Magic FM, because she's been telling the world that she used to enjoy that. It might give her something to do other than all the attention-seeking that she does on Instagram. So befitting of a duchess, isn't it? A royal duchess. This time she's parading Harry's photograph from back in the day, insinuating that it's some sort of thirst trap. Are we supposed to be jealous by this, my dear? Attention-seeking at the age of 44. Oh, hi, birthday boy! Fire, fire! Really, Meghan, really, you think that is some sort of thirst trap? It's very sweet that you tell us you're attracted to your husband, but thirst trap? Mouse trap, I'd say. You're the Venus flytrap and you can't keep your trap shut. But she's got a trap all right. You really expect us to be thirsty over that? I've seen more seductive propositions in a field stuffed with straw and scaring blackbirds. And even that had more brains. Now, this was lovely. The king met up with the world's oldest living person. What an achievement. We've spoken about her before, Ethel, who was celebrating 116 years last month, actually, the birthday was, but naturally she received a birthday card from the king, and she is sharp as a whip. She was able to recall the moment when the late Queen invested Charles as the Prince of Wales in 1969.
I remember when your mother crowned you in Carnarvon Castle.
And isn't she gorgeous?
And all the girls were in love with you.
Oh, she is a tonic, an absolute tonic.
I wanted to marry you.
Born in 1909.
You said Prince Charles was so handsome, all the girls were in love with him.
One blinks and 116 years go by, I'm quite sure. You know, I told you I had a horrid week last week and a bit of the week before. And before I go to bed, I fill in a diary just with a brief summary of the day's events and everything. And I was looking back to when all the horrors began, and I could not believe how quick a week had gone. We often discuss here, don't we, how time just flies by. It seems to go by quicker and quicker as one gets older, but Honestly, I have never experienced like the speed that the last week went by, probably because I was under great strain and stress and snot and tirana, but I've never known anything like it, and it made it so abundantly clear to me that time is just an illusion, isn't it? Pure illusion. I'm telling you, my dear fruits, that a number of days, the last few weeks, simply vanished into thin air. I could not believe that time had passed so quickly. On the subject of my horrid week that I had explained to you in the previous broadcast, I cannot thank you enough for all the sentiments of goodwill that I've received and keep coming in, and I'm trying to get through all of them in the comment section. Such generosity of spirit. Thank you for sharing your stories, your own tales of woe, what's been going on, which makes some of mine fade in comparison. It's all relative, isn't it? But I thank you so much for the goodwill and a handful of tips that I received from some of you. Please know that it is greatly and sincerely appreciated. It truly is. I don't take it for granted, any of that goodwill. I refuse to use the word community when it comes to my basketeers. You are my basketeers, but you are a collection of individuals. I hate online communities, even if you might consider this one. I don't, and I refuse to, because communities become toxic and parasocial. But as basketeers, fine basketeers, I couldn't be more proud. Couldn't be more proud. Now, as for all of this nonsense on stilts that we keep reading about regarding tension between William and Charles, all of this confection and fabrication from the press, my understanding actually is that Prince William flew to Aberdeen yesterday to join his father in Balmoral for a few days. That was straight after he'd been in the Southport area for the day, which we're about to look at, because the Prince and Princess of Wales returned to Southport. They visited last October after the tragedy unfolded in, was it the June or July of last year? Southport is a seaside town. It's about 17 miles north of Liverpool. It's in that area of the country. And they popped in to see the nearby communities who had been affected by the brutal slaughter of young children. I think 3 of them were killed, weren't they? Others very seriously injured at this Taylor Swift dance party that captured the public imagination. And they were slaughtered at the hands of what can only be described as pure demonic evil. It is too much for me to dwell on for very long, to be quite honest. But there are several engagements throughout the day, and the families and the locals continue their healing journeys, finding inspiring ways to uplift and support one another. The day began at Farnborough School, where one of the victims, young Elsie, was a pupil, and they met with her parents and with teachers. Catherine wore a Burberry silk crepe de chine pink blouse paired with a charcoal coat by Jigsaw, which was very appropriate, because apart from the fact that pink represents hope for the outcome of this tragedy, pink light bulbs were illuminated in the wake of it all, so she is paying a nod to that in a very classy sort of way. But also I've always associated pink with the colour of cheer, over yellow, which is often used to symbolise cheer, but for me it's the Care Bear, the Cheer Bear. The Care Bear emblazoned with the rainbow. That will always remind me of that. That shade of pink resembles cheer. So it was nice to see Catherine bringing some of that with her. And it looks so wonderful with the pearl drops to the lobes. The local children waved their Union Jacks in gaiety and joy at the sight of their future king and consort. And then it was to another primary school, Churchtown's new playground, a joyful space created in memory to little Alice and Bibi. The playground includes a stage, libraries, play areas and quiet spaces designed to bring comfort, hope and healing. And they were given some bracelets by little Bibi's mother, Lauren, emblazoned with Bibi's Hive, which is the charity set up in Bibi's memory, and both the prince and the princess wore their bracelets for the rest of the day. Churchtown Primary relayed a message from the head teacher, who thanked the Waleses for their generous donation to the playground and spoke of how touched they all were by the Waleses' ongoing support.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Are any of my basketeers from Barrow in Furness? And if you are, did you get to see the King? Because he was there in Barrow to recognise the town's contribution to national defence and industry, celebrating its new status as the Royal Port of Barrow. How grand! This is in Cumbria, in the northwest of England, lovely part of the world, and His Majesty attended the commissioning ceremony for HMS Agamemnon, the sixth of 7 astute-cast nuclear-powered submarines built in Barrow. This marks the vessel's entry into operational service with the Royal Navy, and he met those involved in the construction, as well as serving personnel and their kinfolk. Then it was to the Bridge Centre, a careers hub involved in the regeneration of Barrow's town centre, and it's here where local talent is connected with opportunities in the growing industries of the locale. At Coffee Dash, the King brought regal charm to the delights on display, meeting with charities and community groups supported by the local Impact Fund. On the broadcast we often speak of letters patent, don't we, and of some of our hopes to see William issuing his own letters patent in good time when the time arrives, regarding troublesome brothers and sisters-in-law. Woohoo! That'll be a wonderful day, won't it? But for now, at Barrow Town Hall, the King presented letters patent formally bestowing royal charter status on the Port of Barrow. This prestigious recognition acknowledges the town's historic and ongoing contribution to national defence and maritime history. The Barrow shipyard has been building Royal Navy submarines for almost 125 years. The first vessel, named Holland I, was launched in 1901. I think we should very briefly touch upon the funeral for the Duchess of Kent, which took place when I was unable to broadcast, just very briefly, and mainly about the clothes, to be honest, because we're not privy to the service. But the King looked fantastic. I really love him in this particular get-up whenever he wears it. And actually, now that he's got that shock of white hair, it puts me in mind of Karl Lagerfeld. All he needs is a fan. Why not, my dear? Hide behind a fan and gossip about the Sussexes, with the Waleses, who are there looking sombre and elegant and entirely appropriate. The coffin was draped in the royal standard, of course, and dear Prince Edward, her widower, Duke of Kent, was supported by Lady Helen. Very touching, and all the children and grandchildren were there. I can't be bothered to go through all of them, but they all look very stylish, I've got to tell you. And Queen Camilla was taken poorly, so she was in absentia, taken poorly with acute sinusitis. I loved the Princess Royal's hat. I thought that was wonderful, the way that she uses that trick of a flash of deep electric bluish purple there to contrast the black and add a moment of interest. And then, of course, the Yorkies trotted in, didn't they, my dear? Least said, soonest mended on that account. Yeah. And then there was Sophie, another splendid millinery creation there, and the Gloucesters, who were understated and regal, which reminds me, Fip 62, in your comment you mentioned, didn't Birgitte Gloucester look impeccable and so pretty at the state banquet? She did, Fip 62, she did. Birgitte's hair in an updo was an improvement on her usual look. Okay. Oh yeah, she did. It was worth a mention. I didn't last time. She was wearing a sort of powder blue creation, wasn't she? And it's the honeysuckle tiara that's the interesting thing, isn't it? Commissioned by Queen Mary in 1910. And the thing is that you can swap out the stones. Sapphire, she's had a diamond in it, that large essential stone. And I think it was only a few months ago in July that she switched that essential stone of the diadem. And in its place was a huge pink kunzite, which is a gem that we very rarely discuss, but actually it's very beautiful, usually with a violet hue or a lavender lilac-y hue or a very deep pink. A really enchanting stone. And then it was to Chatsworth House for the Queen's Reading Room Festival. I think it's the 3rd year, and how it's flown by. I can remember discussing with you the 1st and the 2nd. Yes, the 3rd year. Chatsworth House. I love Chatsworth House. I haven't been there much, but I always go in summer. I would love to see it in different seasons, but that's just when I happen to be around the area. But what I always bring away from it is memories of the peonies. The pillowy, billowy, silky peonies are so beautiful. The grounds, the gardens, fantastic. But the polka-dotted Queen joined a discussion on the benefits of reading on one's mental well-being. Hear, hear. Well, this year the festival coincides with the 250th anniversary of the birth of Jane Austen, and the Queen watched a performance of Jane Austen's work by Jill Hornby and Fiona Shaw. I always loved Fiona Shaw in Three Men and a Little Lady. I don't think that she will ever top that character. Regardless of all her fabulous and much admired thespian work on the stage, I think that it's her as a horny head mistress for Tom Selleck that will go down in history, don't you, my dears? That smouldering spinster she played so beautifully and so funnily, she'll never top that, lovey. Sorry, Fifi, my dear. Austen and Shakespeare all out the window, my dear. They're going to have to take second place, or your Aunt Petunia. There were artefacts from the museum enjoyed by Her Majesty, who donated some books at the donation point, and later there was a glittering reception with literary figures splashed all over the place, all coming together in the wonderful cause of celebrating and promoting the unique power of books to improve brain health, mental health and social connection, and one's vocabulary, of course. People often ask me about my vocabulary, which is very generous of them, because I don't actually have a particularly rich vocabulary, especially in comparison to so many other kingdomers. But it's very nice of you to say so. But if I do possess a little more than others, then it's only because books and the simple exercise of writing down and jotting down any unfamiliar words as you go through books and keeping a little diary of them and going back to remind oneself of them. I found that very, very useful. I learn new words all the time from it, virtually every book. But more than vocabulary, and as I say, mine is not especially extensive, it has helped me become better and more articulate and eloquent in the reading of, let's say, my Dorothy Whipple's books from the 1930s. Well, actually, probably before that even. You've seen all my old books all around me. Well, sometimes I'll pick one up and not even particularly get into the story, but you get into the vernacular, the rhythm, the way of speaking, the way that sentences are formed. If you're not au fait or really up on grammar, because again, I'm not. I can barely tell an adjective from a verb, from an adverb and all of that. It went in one ear and out the other, my dear. I'm a Diana, I'm a bimbo, I'm an airhead, what can I say? You know, I'm a dilettante when it comes to all these things. I know a bit of this and a bit of that, and I can sandwich them all together, but I'm no expert in any way, especially when it comes to grammar and all of that. Oh dear, no. But my point is that the more you furnish your mind with the rhythm of the books of talented authors and writers and pick up on the expressions and the speech, it's absorbed, it's imbibed into one's psyche. It's about the rhythm. But you have to apply yourself in the reading of it. And, you know, you can be quite passive about it, simply reading and letting it go into your brain and become a habit rather than tick-tock. You're going to reap the benefits, you understand? So I am right behind Queen Camilla's quest, and the Queen's Reading Room has been a great success, reaching over 12 million people in 182 countries each year with free educational content, major festivals and events like this one. And Princess Anne, our beloved Princess Royal, visited the Naval Children's Charity to celebrate its 200th anniversary, and each year the charity supports several thousand young people from naval families, focusing on supporting children's well-being and development. Queen Elizabeth was patron of the charity for over 70 years, becoming patron in 1945, and this was Anne's first visit as patron. And she looked an absolute tonic in these greeny blues, the beautiful silk scarf, and she was gifted flowers and a child's apron. Did you see the king addressing the people of Papua New Guinea? Some of you might have been very surprised to see him speaking in their language.
Tete, time yupla, makim, despla, impotent walkabout, belong country. You me can look, go back, want him, hamamas.
Marking 50 years of her independence.
Tete, emi bigpla de true blong Papua New Guinea. Na mi hamamas, true long salim bigpla.
The crowds roared their approval, absolutely roared their approval, but in fact it was nothing new. Some of you may know he speaks it quite often when he addresses the people of Papua New Guinea, and he was actually an exchange student there some time ago. And Prince Edward, the Duke of Edinburgh, has been on royal duty abroad, representing his big brother, the King, in Papua New Guinea, where he attended celebrations marking the 50th anniversary of the country's independence from Australia. OEP. Well, the Duke took part in the presentation of new colours replacing the late Queen's, symbolising the history of the Royal Pacific Highlands Regiment, their spirit and their loyalty to the nation and its head of state, who is King Charles III. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Sorry, Harry. Sorry. Your father's reach extends across the globe, throughout empire. Yes. His Royal Highness had a gay old time in adventure parks, green spaces, and with the locals, and he watched 2 performances. He loves a bit of theatre, doesn't he, already? He mixed with leaders, and he witnessed a dawn flag raising ceremony at Independence Hill, celebrating Papua New Guinea's peaceful transition to nationhood in 1975. He met with officers, and he behaved like a gentleman at a big stadium do with fireworks, and he announced that the Duke of Edinburgh Award will be piloted next year in Papua New Guinea ahead of a national rollout. Now that's royalty. I've got some laundry going on in the background, so apologies if you can hear a washing machine pulsing at the moment, but we're nearly there. But I just wanted to mention Edward and Sophie in Japan, because after Papua New Guinea they were together in Japan, which is exactly why we weren't able to enjoy them at the state banquet last week. But they were there celebrating the strong bilateral relationship between the kingdom and Japan, and they were rubbing shoulders with partner organisations at a reception, and, most exciting of all, they met Hello Kitty, who was serving as an ambassador. Isn't that marvellous? Wonderful. I love Hello Kitty, and I hope you know that Hello Kitty's real name is Kitty White, and Kitty White is English. Indeed, yes, not Japanese. This has been confirmed by Sanrio, who also confirmed in recent years that Hello Kitty is not a cat. She is an anthropomorphized creation that looks like a cat, but is actually a girl. Yes, that is the official story. She's a little girl with the look of a bobtail cat, I suppose you could say. But she's a Britisher, yeah. And she lives in London, in a London suburb. Perhaps she's just round the corner from me. I wouldn't tell you, I'm sort of secrecy. But she lives with her kinfolk, her twin sister, Mimi. And her birthday's November the 1st. She weighs 3 apples, and she's 5 apples tall. I'm not peeing on your leg, my dears. I'm telling you it's raining. I'm telling you from the words of Sanrio, from their creators, you know. And she's got her own cat, in fact, called Charmy Kitty. And she walks and sits like a 2-legged creature. But back to business. And the newly launched Musubi initiative builds relationships between people and businesses in the kingdom and Japan. And there was a short musical number, again enjoyed by Edward. He loves a musical number. And that was followed by the raising of a kanpai toast. There was a private audience with their Imperial Highnesses, and the Edinburghs planted an oak sapling in the garden of the State Guest House, cultivated from a seed of the original tree that Queen Elizabeth planted during a state visit in 1975. Do you see how the circle turns? And isn't it marvellous? Such royalty. And at the National Sumo Arena, it would be fun to see Prince Edward all trussed up like a sumo, wouldn't it? In that sort of costume. Should we request that? I think that would be marvellous. Well, okay, maybe not. Maybe Prince William. Yeah, I'd love to see Prince William doing a bit of sumo, wouldn't we? Can you imagine him opposite Henry? Those little legs hanging out. Versus William's brawny, hunky frame. That'd be a wonderful sight, wouldn't it? What a wrestling match. I'm getting carried away. But then there was a private audience with their majesties, the Emperor and Empress of Japan. So do you see, and isn't it curious to think that Meghan Sussex and her husband would have had a life of mixing with emperors, empresses, not influencers and tawdry celebrities, chat show hosts and all this palaver. Not that there's wrong with any of those types of folk, but they're all on the hustle. And I love the hustle, and I love hustlers, but who can they really trust? Who can they really belong to when you're among those who, you know, so if you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours type of affair, do you understand? Whereas when you're a working royal duchess like Edward and Sophie, when you're out and about doing your stuff, yes, of course, everything wants something for you, but the hierarchy is understood. Your place is understood, and there you are doing the king's work like Edward and Sophie. No financial recompense or any involvement or sponsorships to sully proceedings. None of that vulgarity, none of that commercialising coming into it. Do you understand? It's a sorry game they've been playing, and they're trying to fiddle their way back into the kingdom and the auspices of the king. Well, we'll see how that goes, won't we, my dear? We'll see. I'll catch up with you again soon. Ta-ra, my lovers, and take care, won't you? Channel the royal spirit, and toodle pip.